All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Mad Mix Not Cheap Whiskey Review, number 7. On the bed tonight, it should need no introduction. Blanton's, the original single barrel. Now, of course, this is a Buffalo Trace allocated product. Not easy to come by. As you can see, I got one before. I probably had this about 2 years ago. And obviously not much of it survived. And as a matter of fact, I paid the same price 2 years ago as I paid for this, last week, $79.99. So it's not a cheap bottle. It's an $80 bottle. But when I got it last time, I didn't get any of the accoutrements with it. As you can see, every bottle has a different horse on it. There's a trotting horse. This one's got the running horse. I think there's five or six different ones. You can collect them if you want. It didn't come with all the accoutrements. I just got this cheesy little plastic wrapping around the outside of it. This time it came with the box, the bag, and of course the bottle, and the little pull tab, the little wax-covered pull tab that goes around to seal it. Then comes with a real cork, and that's actually the horse is made of metal. It's kind of heavy, but yeah, I got the full box this time, so that was kind of cool. I hadn't seen that before. That it came with a like a brown, almost like what Crown Royal comes in a little bag, little velvet bag. So, pretty famous. Single barrel, it'll tell you when it was dumped on. It doesn't really tell you when it was made, though, but it'll tell you what rick number it was stored in, what barrel number it was, and of course, they're bottled at 93 proof. So, there's no age statement on Blanton's, which is kind of surprising, you know what I mean? You'd figure if they consider it some of the finest whiskey made, they'd know how long it was in a barrel for, but you know what I mean? Maybe they age better in some years than they do others, so they don't necessarily age state it. But all right, without further ado, let's have at it. Yeah, it's got a really nice nose. It's a little more subtle than the Eagle Rare I did last night. In fact, the color's a little more subtle. You know what I mean? Eagle Rare seems to be a bit darker, but this has a nice. This has all that typical bourbon nose, but it smells a little more refined. It smells a little bit more subtle, more nuanced. I like it. It's got a very good nose. You get all the typical bourbon nose on it. You don't need me to tell you what they are. They all, pretty much all bourbon has them same, brown sugar, honey, maybe a little bit of honey, some of that little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of wood. This one is nice, though. It's refined smelling. It's not like nothing comes out of the glass and blasts you in the nose or anything. It's got a real subtle, refined scent to it. But the scent's not what we're after. The taste is. So let's have at it. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I almost get like a little cherry or something on the palate. Something there. The honey is kind of amped up. It's got a nice mouthfeel too. It's like thicker and more viscous than the Eagle Rare was. But this hits a little harder too. I don't remember. Oh, Eagle Rare is like what, 100 proof or 90 proof? I forget. It's only 93 proof, but seems to be playing above its proof, to be honest with you. All right, let's go back in again. Yeah, very, very smooth. Very subtle, like I said, a lot more subtle. The Eagle Rare kind of gives you a pop when you drink it. This is kind of like a smoother, more sippable, subtle, nuanced whiskey. Now I'm getting a little bit of that oak. I'm getting a little bit of that oak funk on the palate. But it's not bad. It's not overpowering. It's just kind of there. Kind of like the finish. You get that little bit of oak funk to it. Like it's been in a dusty warehouse for a while. Yeah, it's good. It's smooth. It doesn't, it doesn't pop out at me as being particularly spectacular, but it is very smooth. It smells great, tastes great. It's smooth. It's sippable. I don't really remember too much about this bottle because I wasn't a big whiskey connoisseur, and as you guys know, I'm not a big bourbon connoisseur anyway. So I don't remember a whole lot about that Blanton's other than I killed the motherfucker. Um, but this, I mean, it's not blowing me away. Is it a good whiskey? Yeah, it's a good whiskey. It's smooth, it's subtle, it's drinkable, very approachable. I don't know. Would I say for being almost double the price of Eagle Rare, do I think it's that double as much great? No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. But, people who are probably more into bourbon than me would probably say that's an unrealistic expectation. In order to be double as good as Eagle Rare, it's got to be pretty spectacular. But it is almost double the price at $80. They ain't giving this shit away. Comes in a nice fancy bottle with the fancy horse and the fancy packaging. And yeah, it's a showpiece. I remember when I got that last one, I stopped by my social club on the way back from the liquor store, and I brought it in because a couple of my buddies were there. And, I was like, who wants a shot of Blanton's? And everyone said yes, of course. And, one of the older guys at the other side of the bar was like, oh, I remember my father drinking that. I remember that because it had the horse on the top and this and that. He was like, my grandfather, my father was drinking that when I was a kid. So Blanton's has apparently been around a while. So we enjoyed a shot of it together. And it's a very, it's a good whiskey to break out when you got friends around. It's kind of a showpiece. You have a bottle of Blanton's around. Usually anybody who knows anything about whiskey is going to want a pour of it. And I can't say I blame them. It's a good whiskey. Let me give it one more. Yeah, it's sweet on the nose, too. It's very sweet. Now that I'm going back to it, it's the nose is very sweet, like honeyish. Honeyish. Maybe I get a little bit of that cherry or some kind of fruit note in there. And then on the palate, yeah, it's drinkable. It's got a little bite to it. You know what I mean? It seems to play above its proof, like I said. But it's very smooth, very drinkable. There's nothing wrong with this whiskey. It comes from one barrel, so there's only going to be so many of these that were ever the same. You know what I mean? All right, enough bullshitting. Blanton, Mad Mix, Not Cheap Whiskey Review number 7, Blanton Single Barrel. I'll give it an 8.7. I'm not blown away. I'm not disappointed. But I'm not blown away. It lost a couple points just based upon its price. Would I say this is an $80 bottle of whiskey? No, I think you can do as good, maybe not the same, but as good, as drinkable for probably a little less money. But a lot with Blanton's and with some of these BTAC allocated, these Buffalo Trace allocated products, you're paying for the name. You know what I mean? You're not paying a ton for the name. And I definitely wouldn't overpay. Would I say it's worth $80? Am I glad I got it for $79.99? Sure. Because I can bring it out when I got friends or, company. When my son comes home from the Marine Corps, I can say, hey, come on, kid. Let's have a freaking sip. You know what I mean? They can break out the Blantons in the fancy bag, open it back up, have a pour with my son or have a pour with another family member or friend, a good friend. So I guess a lot with these, it's the rareness of it. It's the experience of it. It's the mystique of it. And it's a good whiskey. I'm not downplaying it. But on this channel, some of my score is going to be based upon price. If you've got a good or a decent price, it might bump you up a couple. If your price is a little bit higher than what I think it's worth, it's going to bring you down a couple points. So, with that being said, Blanton's not bad. Obviously, if you can get it and you got the money to buy it, I would suggest you get a bottle. It's an experience. It's something to enjoy. Something you won't forget. Everyone remembers their first Blantons. All right, my people. Enough of me freaking bullshitting. Hey, love yourself. Love your family. Love your friends. And love fucking expensive whiskey. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.